Hi, this is Dickson Tang. Welcome to this show. Today we have a special guest. We have Stefaan van Hooydonk from Belgium. Stefan is a global curiosity expert and the founder of the Global Curiosity Institute. He's the former Chief Learning Officer at Cognizant, responsible for more than 300,000 employees worldwide. Are you ready to have more insight on workplace curiosity from Stefan? Coming up to you shortly.
In the 21st century, which for me is the century of ideas, if you make a mistake, we're going to celebrate this. I think that's a trend that's starting to play. It's not commonplace yet all over the place. And everybody can have great ideas. How do you facilitate that? And I'm diagnosing curiosity around three themes or around three applications. First of all, how curious am I about the world? So you're talking about intellectual or cognitive curiosity. How curious am I about others? Empathic curiosity. And how curious am I about myself? So it's self-reflective curiosity. Globalcuriosityinstitute.com. For me, the opposite of curiosity is conformity.
For this particular type of audience who are the business leader who need to drive growth, what will be your advice, right, to them so that they can go and take some action, right, leveraging on curiosity? Right? What will be your advice to those business leaders who need to drive business growth?
Well, it's again a beautiful question, Dickson. Well, let me take one step back. There's a beautiful research done by a Harvard professor, Francesca Gino, and she wrote a beautiful article, actually already in 2018, on the business case for curiosity. And she came up with three insights, and I think they're useful to mention in your question. First of all, curiosity is much more important than previously thought for the profitability of a company. Mm-hmm. Secondly, companies and leaders can actually influence curiosity by changing some way of their culture, or some of their process, some of their practices. They can actually encourage much more curiosity than ever before. And the third dimension is probably the most important one, is that what she found is that although leaders say they support curiosity, most in fact stifle it. Are we promoting a culture of curiosity in our people, or are we promoting a culture more of conformity? I think learning and development has a huge opportunity to not being a support function, but to really co-create the future and shape the culture for an organization. Everybody wants to work for Apple, because they're really intentional about allowing ideas and allowing innovation to happen.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode, Ideas Talk. Hi, I'm Dickson Tang. Great to have all of you here. And today we have a special guest from Belgium. We have Stefaan from Belgium, right? Stefaan van Hooydonk. He is the founder of Global Curiosity Institute. Hi, how are you doing, Stefaan?
Hello, Dickson. Thanks for having me.
Okay, fantastic. It's great to have you on this show. Some of you might have got to know Stefaan before because he was the former Chief Learning Officer of Cognizant, global IT conglomerate. But for those of you who are new today, let me just give you guys a brief introduction about who is Stefaan. Right, so Stefaan, I'm really happy you're joining today's show. So Stefaan is the founder of the Global Curiosity Institute. He is deeply passionate about workplace curiosity, right, or curiosity at work. And he consults, right, global companies, leadership teams, and individuals to develop stronger curiosity muscle. Right. So I really love what you do, Stefaan. And I know that you also work for different conglomerate and big company before, right, like Nokia, Alpha Healthcare, Philips, right, Flipkart, Saudi Aramco, and of course, right, Cognizant. Right. So today, I'm really excited that you are joining us, and also I'm sure our audience is excited to hear from you. Okay, once again, welcome to this show, Stefaan.
Super, thanks, Dickson. Yeah, let's do this. I'd love to go with the flow and see where this leads.
Okay, fantastic. And perhaps just to kick this started, perhaps I know you're from Belgium, right? Maybe you can share with us a little bit about which part of Belgium you're from, and also what's going on currently, and what kind of project you're working on right now.
Okay, I'm actually working. I'm in the north of Belgium. Belgium is a really small country. We have the north is Dutch speaking, the south is French speaking. I'm actually at this moment in the French speaking part. We have a country house here, but I live typically in the north in the Dutch speaking part. Life here continues. We have on and off lockdowns, like all of us, I guess, in the rest of the world. Omicron is hitting us all. I have not been ill yet. I've got now three vaccinations by now. I have not been yet. Neither is my family. My kids, two of my kids I've got 4 children. 2 of my kids had COVID, but they all, of course, they were fine. My mother had COVID. She also is fine now. So I think everybody has to have COVID at one point or the other.
Wow, I'm not too sure what to say. Like, it's kind of like a good news and bad news, right? If you look at the bad news, it's okay, I got COVID, right? But the good news is like you become a stronger person after COVID. So I'm not too sure, I'm not too sure which philosophy you are subscribing to, right? But it seems that COVID is part of your life, right? in a way, right? Yeah.
It is part of our life, and I think what I realized last year is the most important thing. I think is life and love, and life is health, and love is relationships. I think at the end of the day, that's the only thing that counts for all of us in humanity, is whether we have our health and whether we have the people that we care about. And I think that's what COVID taught me, at least.
Yeah, I really like your notion about this, like humanistic element about health and love, right? I think this is the core element in our workplace. And then I think after COVID, people start to pay more attention to a health, work-life balance, mental health, the human development, and so on and so forth. And so I think the human element of work, right, will become more and more important. And I know that, right, one of your key part of your work, it is around this workplace curiosity, right, about the individual curiosity and also corporate curiosity, right? Can you share a little bit more with our audience about your work on curiosity?
Yeah, I started about 1.5 years ago when I founded the Curiosity Institute. And actually, it started from a personal drive. As a chief learning officer, of course, you're dealing with the development and the growth of people under your care. And I've been pretty much my entire life, I've been in learning and development. I started in investment consulting, and then I moved into learning. And in organizations, we always see people. Some of the people that we have in our organizations are always hungry. They're always reading books. They're always on podcasts like this one. They're always asking questions. They're always fine to not know, and therefore, but still want to have this urge to go and find out. And I never called it curiosity. I ended up calling it curiosity later on. But I realized we always have some people that are really good in our organizations. And reflecting on this as a chief learning officer, I always asked myself, how can we make sure that everybody's like that? Because I realized that somehow this is only the minority in organizations that are really constantly sticking out their neck, learning all the time, trying to understand what their customers are all about, and trying to look under the hood and try to be better in relationships, welcoming new colleagues faster than others. People that are eager to, and then I call them A players. And then I realized that we have also a lot of B players in our organizations, people that want to learn and grow, but somehow it is as if they lost something along the way, that they were kind of naturally hungry for, and it could be happening through childhood. And sometimes people say that school kills curiosity or society kills curiosity. The moment the parents start saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't talk to strangers, and somehow society encroaches into people. And then later on, kids ask a lot of questions, but the moment and research was in the UK that actually kids ask on average there in that research 73 questions per day. By the time we get adolescents into kind of 15 years or so, suddenly those questions are in single digits. And depending on what tribe we're part of, sometimes it's cool, but more often it's not cool to ask questions. So and then by the time we get into the corporate world, then typically we're asking procedural questions. What do I do to survive here? What do I do not to upset my boss? But we stop asking those basic questions like, why do we do the things we're doing? Those. So I started really reading up on this, and I realized actually there was very little research done on workplace curiosity. And I had this opportunity to start the institute, and I said, boy, I want to really dive into this, because especially now in the 21st century, which for me is the century of ideas, and not anymore the kind of the big industrial conglomerates. Like if you compare, for instance, a Marriott with an Airbnb, a Marriott took almost 80 years to amass 600 or 600,000 beds. While Airbnb took them 4 years to amass almost the same number of. So it's not anymore about having the buildings, it's more having the ideas. And ideas, of course, link automatically to curiosity. So I always was thinking, how do we make sure that everybody in the company has those ideas? And then I started thinking about, okay, hold on, if the individual is asking ideas, how is the organization, how is leadership dealing with those ideas? Do they welcome them? Or do they say, well, ideas is I'm doing the thinking, you're doing the working, or time is money, or I don't pay you to think, I pay you to do that type of thing. So I'm starting to think about how relevant is curiosity in organizations, and then there's difference between different types of curiosity. There's differences between startups and regular organizations, and there's differences between people. But it's a fabulous thing that I think, especially now after COVID, many companies are starting to think about, because the questions to many of the solutions that we have and the answers to many of the solutions that we have are actually coming from the 20th century, coming from a mindset of this industrial era thinking.
Yep.
And many people I'm talking to are starting to say, actually those questions or the answers were answers to old questions. And if we don't start asking new questions, and we might lose out. And you see many industries are changing, and you see the life cycle of companies shrinking from, saying, in 1950s it was something like 65 years. Now it's about 15 years for big companies to be in existence, type of a thing. Yeah? So it's an interesting dynamic, and how do you have to behave as a leader. I'll stop here, but I wanted to share with you a little bit how I came into exploring really the notion of curiosity and how it can help companies.
Yeah, that's great. I think the work you're doing is very, very relevant, right, to the current business as well as the social situation. But looking forward, is there like one or two trends of curiosity you are seeing that they are shaping up? Are there some curiosity trends shaping up in the workplace?
Well, there's a number of angles I can answer that question. It's a beautiful question, by the way. You mentioned already the word humanistic earlier, and I'm sensing that a number of companies, and let's be fair, it's still early adopter companies, are allowing more openness, more celebrating failures.
Yes.
It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to ask a stupid questions at a very simple team level, but it's also okay if you make a mistake. We're going to celebrate this. I think that's a trend that's starting to play. It's not commonplace yet all over the place. Now, often people are telling me, "Oh yeah, my company is curious," And often, like there's this difference between the theoretical notion of course we can all find traits in our organizations that are really curious, and I applaud many companies that they're doing a number of things really well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here where they are at this moment. I sometimes ask people to do a quick analysis or a quick little caselet. Imagine you're promoting two people. Or one of two people, and person A is a person who really was consistently overperforming, and she did exactly what she had to do and then some. And then you have another person who also was overperforming on the objective that she was really asked to do. Yet on top of that, she joined a stretched assignment. She volunteered to join a project. Now that project failed miserably. And it was such a high profile project that everybody doesn't even want to mention the project anymore in meetings, because it's kind of, people feel uneasy with, it's kind of the fallen child type of a thing. Now, and clearly that person is associated with that project. Now, who would you promote? The person that was constantly doing really everything that she was asked to do, or would you promote the person that was asked to do what was doing what she was asked to do, and then was stuck out her neck and do something that failed? And it's actually quite remarkable that most companies at that moment say, or most people and leaders say that that moment, actually we promote person A, we should promote person B. And that's for me an indication that at the level of promotion, and at least, maybe we're not as curious as, or inviting curiosity or celebrating curiosity as we say that we are.
Yeah. On that point, I got a sense that, right, one of the trends happening is like what you mentioned is there will be increased tendency for company to promote outliner, right, or like out of the norm talent, right, because we are more open-minded to new ideas and more open-minded about failure, right? So I think the two trends you mentioned, these are very, very valid.
Let me quickly add one extra one, is general openness across the board, across the organization. Because typically in quite a number of traditional companies, the strategy process is done at the top. In a small group, the management is getting together and they figure out the strategy for the future. And if you're looking at innovation, often you have this small innovation unit who's thinking about new ways of doing things, and then the rest of the organization is more into implementation mode. I'm seeing more and more companies who are opening up that notion that strategy can be everybody can contribute to strategy. Because nowadays, in volatile times, it's not anymore that the management team is all knowing. That was good in stable times of the 20th century. Now in the 21st century, nobody knows. But together as a collective, you're much more knowledgeable about potential paths if you allow everybody to contribute to your strategy, or if you allow everybody to your innovation processes. And everybody can have great ideas. How do you facilitate that? And it's not about a kind of an ideas box. It's something more robust than that. How do you welcome ideas, and how do you create the psychological safety for people to say, well, boss, I have an idea. It might kind of be different from what you think, but I think it has merit, you know?
Okay, that's another great point, because right, it is not so much about the bottom down, I mean the top down management, but it's more about like bottom up, right, team decision making, and also the creating the space, right, the psychological safety, right, for people to try things, right? So and actually that resonates a lot with me, because in my book, right, I talk about the concept of the infrastructure, right? As a leader, you need to create the right infrastructure conducive to creativity development, right, in the workplace. So I'm glad that, right, we are kind of like in sync and have some synergy on that point. Okay, fantastic. Nice. And I heard that you have a specific methodology or tools, right, that can help people get to know more about the curiosity and how curiosity can be applied in the workplace, right? Can you tell me just a little bit more about it?
I have two diagnostics. One diagnostic is actually free. Anybody can go online and do it. That's an individual diagnostic. It's finding out how curious am I. And I'm diagnosing curiosity around three themes or around three applications. First of all, how curious am I about the world? So you're talking about intellectual or cognitive curiosity. How curious am I about others? Empathic curiosity. And how curious am I about myself? So it's self-reflective curiosity. How much am I in tune with my values, my purpose, why do I say the things I say? Why do I don't like a person while other people seem to like that person? You know, what is consciously and unconsciously my drivers? By the way, that's the hardest part for us to get really aware about, is our own self-reflective curiosity. So that's one tool that people can take. I've got it now in eight languages, ninth language is coming.
Wow.
Globally now more than 3,000 people have done it. So I'm starting to kind of to be able to compare ages and then let me finish that. I have another diagnostic tool, which is not benchmarking or baselining the individual curiosity, but baselining how well the organization is allowing curiosity from happening. So measuring the environmental aspects to curiosity, whether the organization is innovation orientated, whether there's a learning culture, whether there's role models for curiosity, what the management style is, whether there's any acceptance for failure, what the processes and practices are conducive to curiosity, etc. So that's another tool that I'm typically doing with companies.
Okay, fantastic. Later on, I will put your link in the show notes and also in the resources session. But for those people who are listening and joining us right now, right, if they would like to know a little bit more, right, is it on a particular website that they can get on?
You can always go to globalcuriosityinstitute.com.
Okay.
And there you can find all kind of information. I'm now in the process of writing a book, which will be out in May. People can join the community, the pre-reading community. People can join the questionnaire that I just mentioned, the diagnostic. I post all my presentations that I do in the public domain. I post there so people can see what I mean by curiosity, articles I've been reading, podcasts. I'll be putting this link on the site too. So people can follow a little bit what's happening, because I'm sensing that this is people coming out of COVID, people getting into the 21st century seem to be open to this idea of exploration on top of exploitation. In the 20th century, we were really good at efficiency, at exploitation. Now, and somehow I think we lost exploration in the process. And exploration means challenging the status quo. Exploration means not knowing where you're going, and be open to this. Now, and for me, it's not about either or, it's about end-to-end. You have to create an efficient, scalable organization, but at the same time, you also have to open up to innovation. So that I hope, people can go to the site and follow me on LinkedIn or otherwise.
Fantastic. And I'm excited to know that you have a book coming up right in May this year. And can you give us a little bit, just a preview to what will be happening in your book, right? I'm sure our audience would love to know a little bit more. Okay, so maybe just give us just maybe one or two pointers, right, from your upcoming book. Yeah.
The title is the Workplace Curiosity Manifesto.
Okay.
It's a call for action, both for individuals as well as for organizations. Because curious people need curious organizations to thrive. And I think that's already some new dimension. Often curiosity is linked to the individual, as if the organization has no role to play. But for me, curiosity is nature and nurture. As much the nurturing environment is as important to the individual. So how is the organization also showing up curiously? So it has a part on the psychology of curiosity, some history of curiosity. For instance, did you know that in the 18th century, the opposite of curiosity was science? Because at those, so we all laugh at it now, but in those days, people thought that curiosity was feminine. Because ladies were watching in the mirror and were curious about their beauties, and and they then thought that men were dealing with not fleeting knowledge and useless knowledge, but were dealing with the universal and necessary knowledge, i.e., science. Nowadays, for me, the opposite of curiosity is conformity. How much are you looking at the past versus how much are you looking at the future? So he talks about the psychology, the benefits, the barriers to curiosity. Then I'm focusing on the individual, the leader, the team, and the organization. And then I'm focusing on how some of the really key departments in organization can really make a difference. I'm talking about strategy, I'm talking about HR, I'm talking about marketing, I'm talking about learning and development, innovation. And then there's a bit on how to get better at it. And because for me, curiosity is a muscle, and muscles are there to grow when practiced.
Yes.
But they also atrophy, when
Yes.
we don't. And maybe one of the messages I'm trying to make in the book is it's all about intentionality.
Intentionality. I like that word.
Because we curiosity is a word that we take for granted. And we are even easy not to think about it, even in companies. Curiosity, only intentional companies are recruiting for curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we just take it for granted. We don't even worry about it, or we assume it, and everybody has then a different definition. But it's about intentionality at an individual level, at a team level, at an organization level, even at a societal level.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at very highly controlling societies are going to turn out less curious people because conformity is more. If you're looking at North Korea, they don't want people to stick out their neck. They want people to fall in line and to listen. While I think Singapore is a great example of an exploration-minded company. The sky's the limit. Just go and explore, and of course within the confines of the law and things like that. It's again this nice notion of exploitation and exploration, but I think that's a great way to describe it. That's a bit about the book.
Yep. Okay. That's great. We look forward to your book launch. And okay, for some of our audience here, some of them are the business leader, right, who are leading the team in the organization, and one of their core concerns, of course, is like how to drive the business forward, right? How to drive the business growth of the unit, right? So for this particular type of audience who are the business leader who need to drive growth, what will be your advice, right, to them so that they can go and take some action, right, leveraging on curiosity, right? What will be your advice to those business leaders who need to drive business growth?
Well, it's again a beautiful question, Dickson. Well, let me take one step back. There's a beautiful research done by a Harvard professor, Francesca Gino, and she wrote a beautiful article actually already in 2018 on the business case for curiosity. And she came up with 3 insights, and I think they're useful to mention in your question. First of all, curiosity is much more important than previously thought for the profitability of a company. Mm-hmm. Secondly, companies and leaders can actually influence curiosity by changing some way of their culture, of some of their process, some of their practices. They can actually encourage much more curiosity than ever before. And the third dimension is probably the most important one, is that what she found is that although leaders say they support curiosity, most in fact stifle it. Because I also seen that in my own research, when I'm asking managers, like, do you think that investing in curiosity is a good thing to help innovation in the company? 91% of all the leaders, first-line managers to senior executives say yes. Now, when I ask them a follow-up question is around, is innovation helping your team, yes or no? Then only 50% say yes. Because many people say to me that actually innovation is distracting my team from being efficient. because the show must go on. So I don't want to have too much innovation. If I have a paper in portrait, if somebody tells me to flip it into landscape, that's already a change, and that's a disruption, and that means different things. So many leaders, and again, I'm talking about the difference between this conformity. Like conformity is somebody investing some or inventing something in the past, and we just keep on doing it until somebody brave enough who questions the status quo. And many of those brave people get punished. You know, Galileo Galilei gets punished for saying that it's not the sun who turns around the earth, it's the other way around, you know. And often bringers of new tidings are not appreciated, even in corporate life, because many managers, their present situation is due to history, due to the past, because they've done something beautiful. Now, and a leader is a leader for really good reasons. My only question is, how much are we allowing for openness and innovation and exploration? And what I found is that good leaders are really good at doing both. They know when to invite openness and exploration, and they also know when to say stop to the innovation and to say now we're in implementation mode. But most managers I've seen, and they're more only in implementation modes, and they're not really opening up themselves or their team. When I'm comparing middle managers to senior managers or first-line managers, then middle managers are 4 times less ready to say that curiosity is a good thing for the company compared to first-line or senior executives. You know, because they're and typically in most organizations, middle managers are there to create efficient organizations. They don't want to change things per se, because change is often linked to the individual. If it goes wrong, I'm to blame. If it goes well, everybody wins. But you know, so middle managers are less inclined to, and that's just another proof that openness and awareness and being in tune with yourself, being in tune with others, and being in tune with the world is a great way to approach curiosity, I hope.
Yep. And okay, and another question is, I'm sure some of the audience here, they are actually in the learning and also HR and also talent development, right? And this is your expertise areas. You have been involved in learning and development for many years with different companies. So what will be your advice, right? One single advice, right, to those people who are involved in learning or talent development?
Well, I'd say to learning and development people, let's start embracing curiosity for our own teams to start with. I don't think learning and development has been has been more of a support function, trying to do things what other people want us to do, rather than being curious and thinking about, are there different ways of doing things? Are we promoting a culture of curiosity in our people, or are we promoting a culture more of conformity? Are we pushing training and learning, or are we creating an environment for people to share their knowledge? Are we creating an environment where anybody can join any programs, where there's no distinction between leadership development and other things? By the way, I know some companies who are saying anybody can join anything as long as you're a driver, and so it's all about the people. So if for me, my question is, let's start being curious about our processes, our and also our impact. I think learning and development has a huge opportunity to not being a support function, but to really co-create the future and shape the culture for an organization.
Okay, well said. So it's about, in order for learning and development to change, right? So they need to embrace, right, to curiosity first, right, before they can make the workforce more curious, right? So that's a great point. Okay, great. And I really learned a lot from you today, Stefan, and I'm sure our audience I learned a lot from you today. So what will be your one concluding message, right, to our audience who is watching the show right now, right? What will be your one final message to them?
I think let's go back to the word intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to be intentional
Mm-hmm.
for yourself, for your team, for your organization, for your department in terms of curiosity? Are you reactive or are you proactive? Intentionality is all about proactivity, you know. Are you leaving it to chance or are you doing something about this? Look at maybe come up with some examples of companies that are really curious. Sometimes people mention the company Apple to me. Everybody wants to work for Apple, you know, because they're really intentional about allowing ideas and allowing innovation to happen.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And for our audience here, if they would like to connect with you or to know more about you, right, what's the best way for them to connect or know more about you?
You can do it through the website or LinkedIn. That's always useful.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much, Stefan. So ladies and gentlemen, today we have Stefaan van Hooydonk from Belgium, and he runs the Global Curiosity Institute. And thank you so much for joining the show today. I really appreciate your time, Stefan.
Thanks so much for having me, Dickson. I hope I made some sense for the Asian colleagues, for the global colleagues, and
definitely a lot of great insight, a lot of great learning, and also that's a great reminder for me and also for the audience, right? Is keep learning and be curious. Right? So thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.